Chapter 121, Strawberry Candy. Geto woke from his dream with his fists clenched. He blinked into the dark of the room as he sat up and swung his legs over the edge of the bed. Goosebumps prickled his skin. Geto was both hot and cold. He held his feverish head in his hands. He'd been dreaming of choking on curses again. But it wasn't just the dreams that caused his distress. That intense longing for sex flooded every inch of his body. Gojo said to wake him up when he needed him, but Geto still hesitated. After being unable to calm himself, Geto finally turned to Gojo. He laid his head on Gojo's belly. He clutched Gojo's arm. Gojo opened his eyes. "Suguru?" He put his hand on Geto's cheek. He wasn't sure if that was perspiration or tears he felt on Geto's face, but his skin was hot. "Satoru, I'm sorry, but I need you. I'm all tensed up," Geto admitted. Gojo sat up and cradled Geto's head in his lap. "Never be sorry about needing me." Gojo moved his hand to Geto's bare chest. "Help me," Geto whispered, embarrassed. Gojo shifted around, leaving Geto's legs dangling over the edge of the bed. He tugged lightly on Geto's boxers and pulled them off. Geto gasped as he felt Gojo thrust inside him, a flash of pain, the feeling of fullness. He pressed his fingers to his lips to stop himself from crying out as Gojo angled himself to hit the deepest part of Geto's body. Gojo slowed down for just a moment so he could quickly cast a veil to seal the walls of the room. "It's okay, Suguru. Nobody can hear you now." Geto let himself cry out as Gojo drove into him. Heat rushed through his veins. He was so close to getting his release. "Show me no mercy," Geto gasped. "Keep talking to me like that, and I won't be able to." Gojo leaned even deeper into Geto. Geto couldn't hold back his desperate moans as the first throbs of his climax began. When Gojo wrapped his long fingers around Geto's cock, Geto's body jolted as his cum erupted into Gojo's hand. Geto trembled as Gojo pushed into him with one final thrust, moaning as he finished inside Geto, his cum hot and milky. Geto fell asleep on his stomach. Gojo took down the veil and pulled the blankets over them. He nestled against Geto, cupping one of his butt cheeks in his hand as he drifted off, a hint of a smile on his lips. The next day, Geto was noticeably more settled as he and Gojo headed towards the training chambers underneath Jujutsu headquarters. They lingered in the hallway, waiting for Yaga. Geto glanced at Gojo. Gojo smiled at him. "Thanks for last night," Geto said quietly. "I'm still thinking about it too," Gojo winked, surprised Geto brought it up. "Thinking about it made it easier to come here," Geto chuckled. "Don't let it distract you too much," Gojo grinned, leaning in. "Why do you think I needed you last night?" Geto asked, elbowing him lightly in the ribs. "Oh, so I'm only there to give you release?" Gojo teased. "What better way to help me clear my head?" Geto teased back. "I hope it worked," Gojo said. Yaga cleared his throat behind them and they stepped away from each other, hiding their grins. They followed Yaga further down the hall and through a set of heavy double doors. Gojo and Geto dropped their backpacks onto a small bench in the foyer of the large training room and took their shoes off. Geto hung his uniform jacket on the coat rack. Yaga was waiting for him. A small chest lay on the ground. "I gathered the tamest curses in our storage," Yaga said, unlatching the trunk. "Consume and conjure. You don't need to keep them." Geto hesitated. "I understand, Sensei, but what if I don't remember how?" "I'm sure your muscle memory will kick in. This is just a training, Geto. Practice. Nobody's asking you to be perfect. We're just asking you to try." "What if I," Geto stuttered, "what if I choke?" "Gojo and I are both here. We're not going to let anything happen to you." Geto closed his eyes for a moment and took a deep breath. "Okay." Gojo stood nearby as Yaga picked a curse at random out of the chest. Before he released the talisman, he turned to Geto. "Ready?" "Yes, Sensei." Geto steadied himself as the curse was freed. An undulating iridescent blob soared through the air, no bigger than a basketball. He should be able to compress it, small and tight. Geto extended his arm and drew the pulsating blob closer to him. Geto shrunk it as small as possible, golf ball size. He brought the curse to his mouth and hesitated. He didn't like people watching him swallow curses. He didn't want them to see him struggle to get it down, but he couldn't turn away. If something were to go wrong, he'd need help. He took a deep breath and forced the curse into his mouth. Ugh, a pride curse. It was bitter, and the metallic taste flooded Geto's taste buds. Saliva filled his mouth. He tried to swallow. Being out of commission for so long, his throat was no longer elastic, causing the ball to cut off Geto's airway. Gojo was there in seconds, catching Geto as he swayed on his feet, forcing his fingers in his mouth to retrieve the curse from the back of his throat. Geto coughed and wiped the saliva trailing down his chin with his shirt sleeve. Before Yaga could stop him, Gojo cupped the curse in his hand, destroying it with a flash. "I was saving that," Yaga muttered irritably. Gojo ignored him and looked over at Geto. His eyes were watery and his hair was coming out of its bun. "I'm okay," Geto said, his voice hoarse. "Just give me a moment." He swallowed a few times, massaged his throat, moved his jaw back and forth. Geto was more annoyed than scared. "I can't believe I let that little shit get the best of me. I can do this. No more setbacks. No more giving up." The next curse Yaga released resembled a butterfly with shredded wings that managed to move deftly through the air before Geto broke it down into another golf ball-sized sphere. He shoved it into his mouth before he could second-guess himself and contracted his throat muscles to work the curse down. Gross. Vanity curses tasted the way cosmetic counters smell at department stores, powdery and perfumey. He massaged the lump in his neck. If the curse could just travel down a few more centimeters, he'd be able to breathe again. He gulped hard several times to get the ball moving down faster and was finally able to take a deep breath. He gagged at the synthetic floral aftertaste that coated his mouth. Gojo and Yaga stared at him. "What?" Geto snapped, flicking his head. "I swallowed it. Isn't that what you wanted me to do?" he asked haughtily. "Don't watch if it bothers you." The vanity curse was starting to plant itself inside, and he was suddenly aware of his mood change. Geto shook his head. "I don't have to make it mine," he reminded himself. "Oh, that was crazy amazing. On your second try." Gojo clasped him on the shoulder. Yaga let Gojo's praise speak for them both, but they weren't quite done yet. Geto still had to conjure the curse to complete the training cycle. Geto stepped away from Gojo and steadied his stance. He held his arms in front of him, palms together, drawing energy inward to summon the cursed spirit he'd just captured. He recalled the taste and mental picture of the curse so he could pull it out of his arsenal. This part came back to him easily. His adrenaline surged as he parted his palms, and the tattered butterfly appeared. It tried to fly away, but Yaga had it wrapped, sealed, and stored in seconds. "Oh shit!" Gojo smiled and playfully pushed Geto, the small movement enough to make Geto's hair fall to his shoulders, as the hair tie holding itself together by a thin thread finally snapped and fell to the ground. Geto stooped to pick it up. "It was just a small curse," he muttered. He smacked his lips, wishing he'd kept a water bottle in his backpack to rinse the perfumey taste out of his mouth. Gojo reached for his hand and dropped something in his palm. Geto looked down at the red and green wrapper of the strawberry candy. Gojo used to give these to him after missions. Geto had forgotten, but Gojo remembered. He unwrapped it and popped it into his mouth. Yaga readied to part ways with Gojo and Geto outside of Jujutsu headquarters after reminding them that Geto still needed to train with larger curses. "But he did good today, right, Sensei?" Gojo prodded. "Don't get smug. He did what he was supposed to do." Yaga walked off. Gojo and Geto headed in the opposite direction. "I don't care what Yaga said. You were so good, Suguru." Gojo praised him. He affectionately flicked at Geto's loose hair bouncing off his shoulders with every step. "Hold my hand." Gojo stretched out his fingers and Geto reached for him, clasping him tightly. Maybe that's the secret, Gojo thought out loud. "The secret for what?" Geto asked. "Maybe I should fuck you that hard before every mission to ensure your success," Gojo answered with mock seriousness. Geto laughed. "Maybe you should." Maybe I will, Gojo said, squeezing Geto's hand. They smiled as they walked back to their dorm room, where they would shed their uniforms hastily and make love again. Meanwhile, in the far corners of Japan, old curses began to stir again, triggered by Geto's continued awakening. The spiritual world felt the tip in scales before anyone else did, and the universe, always needing to maintain its balance, would find a way to answer this change in power.